When you've spent hours researching a camera rig, scrolling through glossy images, and scrolling past the perfect fit tagline, you still end up wondering if the gear will actually hold up once you mount the BlackMagic Pocket Cinema camera on a real shoot. I've been there buying a shoulder rig that looked solid on the page, only to find it wobbling when I tried to walk with a dolly or when a windy day added a little extra strain. That hesitation is why I'm breaking down this CAME-TV BMPCC 4K plus shoulder rig, Mattebox, AIB follow focus, and 15mm rod, so you can decide before you click. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the problem this rig is trying to solve. The BMPCC 4K is a fantastic sensor, but it's also a bit of a balancing act. The camera itself is lightweight, but once you add lenses, batteries, external recorders, and a matte box, the center of gravity shifts. Without a solid shoulder rig, you'll see that shift in every handheld take shaky shoulders, uneven pan speed, and the dreaded handshake look that ruins a perfect shot. The market is flooded with generic rigs that promise universal compatibility, but many of them either cantilever the weight of a matte box or force you into an awkward posture. What makes the CAME-TV setup different is how it's been engineered specifically for the BMPCC 4K family. The company markets it as a plus system because it bundles a shoulder plate, a matte box, an AIB follow focus, and a 15mm rod, all designed to click together without a wrench. That modularity is a real time saver if you're shooting a day-long documentary or a short indie narrative where you need to add and subtract accessories on the fly. In my testing, the rig clicks into place with just a quarter turn on each joint, which means you spend less time wrestling with screws and more time framing your shot. Now, let's dig into the practical strengths that matter once the gear is on the ground. The first thing you notice is the enhanced stability claim. The shoulder plate has a padded, contoured surface that rests against the clavicle, distributing the load across a larger area. When I walked with a 12mm Tiffin lens, a matte box, and a follow focus, the rig stayed glued to my shoulder, and the camera didn't swing like a pendulum. That stability translates directly into smoother pans and less fatigue during long shoots, something you can't quantify in a spec sheet, but feel in your arm after an hour of handheld work. Durability is another point that shows up in the product description and backs up the 4.3-star rating from over 200 buyers. The frame is machined from aircraft-grade aluminum, and the joints use hardened steel pins. In practical terms, this means you can drop the rig from a modest height, say, from a low ladder while changing batteries, and the structure will bounce back without permanent bending. The Mattebox's blades are made from anodized aluminum, resisting the kind of wear you see after weeks of shooting through dust or sand. Flexibility is where the rig really earns its plus badge. The adjustable arm sections let you set the camera forward or backward, which is crucial when you swap a wide-angle lens for a telephoto. The follow focus module slides along the 15mm rod and locks into place with a lever, giving you precise control over focus pulls without adding extra weight to the camera head. I tried a typical focus pull on a moving subject, and the gear felt smooth. The knob turned without any gritty resistance, and the focus ring stayed aligned even after a full day of use. All that said, no rig is perfect, and there are a few hidden trade-offs worth mentioning. Because the system is built around the BMPCC 4K's dimensions, the compatibility claim, while accurate for that camera line, becomes a limitation if you ever want to use a larger cinema camera or a different mirrorless body. The mounting plates are shaped specifically for the BMPCC's body, so swapping to a larger sensor rig would require an adapter that isn't included. That may not matter if your workflow is strictly BMPCC, but it's something to keep in mind if you anticipate future upgrades. Weight capacity is another area where the numbers matter more than the marketing line. The rig is optimized to hold the BMPCC 4K with a matte box and a modest lens, but push it with a heavy cinema lens, an external monitor, and a large battery pack, and you'll start feeling the strain at the shoulder joint. In my field test, a 35mm cinema lens plus a small follow focus still felt comfortable, but adding a 4K external recorder pushed the total load close to the rig's upper limit, making the shoulder plate a bit tighter against my chest. If you plan to stack heavy accessories, you might need to consider a more robust rig or reinforce the shoulder pad with an additional cushion. Who should buy this rig? If you are a solo filmmaker, documentary shooter or small crew indie director who already runs a BlackMagic pocket cinema.